Hello, welcome back to Shoogly Shed Motors. I'm Ewan. Again, we're in the garage working on the GS500. Today is a little bit of fabrication, and the fabrication today is headlight brackets. In the past, I've just bought headlight brackets online, and they've kind of been generic, one size fits no one kind of things, and they end up never looking that good really. So my plan is to try and make my own. I've got a bit of a design in mind, but now I need to actually put that into practice. So my idea basically for the bracket is some kind of tubing that slots over the top of the stanchion here between the triple crowns, with basically an arm, or two arms that come out with a hole to mount the headlight. Pretty straightforward, nothing revolutionary or career defining. But I think it'll be a nice little touch to this bike to have something like that custom fabricated, rather than just going online and buying something, as I say, that doesn't really fit the bike and shoehorning it on. So yeah, that's my idea. First up, I need to basically get tubing that is 37mm inside diameter. These pipes are 37mm outside diameter, so I need to get something that slides over them. And that's actually harder than it sounds. This is the spare stanchion that I have, which is really useful for this job because I can work off the bike. Basically, it's really hard to get that size of tubing. I've been online and I've phoned around a few different metals suppliers, and no one seems to have the right size. They have things that are either too loose, can be too rattly, or just too small and won't fit over the stanchion, and I don't have the means or anything like that to bore it out. So a bit of a conundrum really. What can I do to get a pipe that's the right fit for this? So I do have some sheet steel, and what could I do with that? Sheet steel, well, I could put it in the vise and bend it around it, and then I get a piece of tubing that is the exact diameter, outside diameter of this pipe. Let's give it a go. Well, that worked relatively well. It's a pretty decent tube. I've done another one here. So I'm wondering if I can use these. So basically it all comes down to whether or not I can weld these into a complete tube that works, or that at least it looks good. I can always turn the seam to the inside so you don't see it on the outside of the bike. And I can always grind it down and smooth it off. So it really is just a case of, can I weld these together without blowing the shit out of them, which I'm prone to do with this really thin material. That could be a challenge. I blew the shit out of it. I've welded it to the pipe. Do you know, I can never tell if my welding's getting any better or worse. At least there's a bit of a bead there, kind of. Shut up, don't look at it. That's the side you'll see. Basically, I need to clean this up and dimension them, because they're just sort of random sizes just now. Figure out what size they need to be. Grind these back a bit, make them look a bit prettier. But aside from that, that's been a relatively successful endeavour. So from flat metal to tubes. That's a bit of an effort, but you can see the welded side. Even after smoothing it off, it's not amazing. However, that'll be on the inside, so you shouldn't see it really. And also when it gets powder coated, that will look better. I'm also, so these slide onto the tubes nice and snugly, but they'd still move. So I'm going to weld a nut onto the inside and drill a hole through, so you can use a small bolt as a grub screw to hold these in place on the stanchion. I think that's a pretty neat solution to stop them moving about and secure them in place without having any obvious bolts on the outside of the bike. Next thing to do is to fabricate some kind of arm or arms that come out to meet the side of the headlight. The headlight I'm using for this build is this. It's actually it's the original headlight off the XS250. It's obviously scratched up and a bit rusted, but it's actually in decent condition otherwise structurally, and it's a really good quality headlight, nice and solid metal headlight. The reason I'm using this and not going to buy a new one is, one, budgets, and two, see, for the money, all you get is like Chinese crap unless you start spending hundreds of pounds for a headlight. And this is like a decent quality metal headlight. I've got all the rest of the fittings in the bezel and things like that. So I'm just gonna I think I'm gonna use this. It's a pretty standard size, so even if it doesn't work, I can always buy a replacement. But I'd quite like to make a go of this. So obviously the headlight will be front of the bike like that. These will be on the stanchions like that, and we need some kind of bars between them to hold it in place. I've got this long piece of steel. It actually used to be a basketball hoop. It used to be a basketball hoop, and I could have bent it out a little bit. But it's the right kind of gauge for what I want, and it's just mild steel, so that's kind of perfect for my welding. My plan is to make a sort of triangle out of this that runs like that and back to itself, that will basically go out to the hole in the headlight and back in to the support tube. So I need to basically figure out the length that I want to it and then cut it up. So that's it bent to roughly the kind of shape I want, that kind of idea. The question now is whether or not I can recreate that for the other side. Cool, so I've pretty much made two identical ones, and I've just trimmed them up in the vise together. So let me just take them out. They should be pretty much identical, or at least as close to as I'm going to get bending things by hand. They're on opposite sides of the bike, so as long as they are, you know, pretty damn close, then that's perfect. So now they're both the same length as well. Pretty happy with that. Next thing I'm playing about with, or toying with the idea of doing, is a little bit of trellising, just as a wee nod to the trellising at the back of the frame. So I'm going to cut a couple of wee lengths to do that with. There's a couple of wee bits in to do a bit of trellising. I think they'll look pretty cool, especially when the tubes are on there. So let's get these bits all tacked in with the welder, and then the tricky part will be welding them to this. We've already found out how difficult this material is to weld. So I've cleaned them up. They're looking better. They're all filed and scuffed and stuff, obviously, and I'll give them a wee sand, but then they'll be getting powder coated, so they'll look better anyway. Last thing to do really is to weld them onto the tubes. I have also welded in these little eyelets here for bolts to go through to hold the headlight. But yeah, that's pretty much it, just there and there. Well, that's them welded onto the tubes, and I think I'm pretty happy with them. I also welded in these little eyes for front indicators to mount to, but yeah, I think they look pretty cool. I'm going to get the powder coated black with the rest of the pieces, so hopefully they'll look a little bit more pro, hide some of that welding. Oh, it's all part of the charm, isn't it? That was a bit of an epic day. It is dark outside now, but fun to get some fabricating done, and I love metalwork, even if you know, not the best at it. It's just something I really enjoy doing, so jump at the chance to fabricate something like that for the bike. As usual, give me a like, leave me a comment, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for the rest of the videos. Really appreciate it. Not sure what the next episode holds, but probably a little bit more fabrication. I need to knock up some kind of tailpiece as well, so that could be on the cards for the next episode. Otherwise, it might be something entirely different. I have no idea. I'm just ticking off little jobs with this bike, and we'll get there in the end, I imagine. I hope. Anyway, cheerio.